found two other people that were pretty famous that were born today. One being Snoop Dogg,
Today being October 20th.
October 20th, which is, yes, today is October 20th. Snoop Dogg and John Krasinski, who I love both of them. Kamala, I'm ambivalent about those two. I love Snoop Dogg and I love John Krasinski. So let's look at them too. And I find it interesting to look at their designs because being born on the same day, they all have the same Incarnation Cross, but they are all three very different people.
Mhm.
And so we might do a little comparison there for sure. And so to give you something to look forward to, if you don't want to hear about her, fine, that's whatever. But, just keep an open mind and look at it from a research and a learning experience of reading charts. Human Design reveals who you are energetically and who you came here to be. I'm Dana, your Human Design guide.
And I'm Haley, on this journey with you to uncover the power of human design.
Together, we're here to explore how embracing your authentic self is the ultimate path to a life of more freedom and fulfillment.
Welcome to the Human Design Hive Podcast. Let's get into it.
Well, hello, Haley. How you doing?
Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon. A lovely fall day. I see you got your flannel on.
Mm-hmm.
It is officially fall, flannel fall. And we'll do a little weather update here. It is lovely here in the South. It actually had a few days of cool weather, which I'm very excited about. Because every year the same thing happens where you're like, middle of summer, July, August. You're like, I will never understand what not being hot and sweaty feels like. I will never know what it's like to go outside again and enjoy it. And then the first cool, crisp day, it's like, wow, what a wonderful place to live.
Like, everyone, open the windows. Open them now.
I know it got so chilly the other day. I couldn't even open the windows. I'm soft. We're soft here because it was not that cold.
Yeah.
My
Meanwhile,
house just
let's see.
traps the cold.
Here yesterday, it was rainy and gloomy all day and maybe barely touched the 50s.
Oh,
It was
but
cold.
you got that snow up there in the mountains I saw on your video.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Pikes Peak has some snow. I
Mhm.
think the San Juans, I think they got hit with quite a bit of snow from this little storm that came in.
Mm. Oh, miss the mountains. But anyways, let's see, what is today? Today is a Sunday. And so I kind of fell into this week's topic a little bit in coming up with something to talk about because I think we have touched on it before that I don't do so great at planning episodes. I have a list of ideas, but I think I'm going to just say it's my generator nature with my open head to just be like, okay, let's see what comes up, what I respond to, or what I'm inspired to talk about before we hit record. And I started playing around with a couple ideas. And a funny little thing happened where I do the transit updates online. We do the monthly episodes where we go through the whole month coming up, what the transits are, what's gates the sun's going to transit in. And then I do, sometimes I'm off by 6 to 12 hours, send out a update email and a post on Instagram about whatever gate we're transiting into. And so this, I think it was yesterday, we transited into gate 50, which is the gate of values. And I do love this gate. I have this gate. That's not why I love it, but it's one of these more clear-cut gates to me. Like some gates to me feel very elusive. I still struggle with trying to understand exactly like what they do and what the energy is. Like say gates that you have in your chart, like the head gates. Like I said, I'm always struggling. But gate 50 is in the spleen. It's the gate of values, and it's pretty simple. It's about the laws and the values of the tribe and what the tribe needs in order to survive, what they uphold, and what keeps the tribe safe and thriving and everything else. And as I sent out the email, I mentioned at the very bottom of the email, just a FYI, because here in the States, all of our attention is being dragged towards the upcoming election, whether you want to think about it or not,
Mm-hmm.
presidential election. And one of the candidates, Kamala Harris, she was born under Gate 50. I mentioned it and said that her career as a litigator, as attorney general, as a senator, now vice president, running for president, I don't know, kind of exemplifies a lot of this energy of that gate. Take it or leave it. And I did receive some pushback on that from someone who may or may not be listening because they said our values don't align. Had some very unkind things to say
Mm-hmm.
about that email. And what a reaction. I'm like, geez,
It was it
I'm
was
just,
quite the email.
it was short, it was brief. Um, Not quite sure what to do about it. And other than one of the things I was thinking about talking about today was her design, just as an FYI. And then I got that email. I'm like, well, there's my response. Gave me something to respond to. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I have the same gate. It's not in as a prominent placement, but I do hold certain values for myself, for my family, for my tribe, what I think is important, responsibilities, what I think is important. Did I already say that? Important?
Yes.
Sorry. And if you don't want to hear about it, don't listen. If you don't like that I'm going to talk about it, I'm sorry, don't listen. And if it offends you for me to have this side of my personality where I'm actually concerned with these things, then yes, maybe we aren't a good fit. And you're welcome to not be in my community. That's fine. I'm not going to make anybody be here. I'm also not going to tell anybody how they should think. However, I'm going to tell you what I think
Mm-hmm.
because it's my show, it's my party. I don't want to say it like that, like it's my show. But I mean, come on. We're going to talk about in human design, science of differentiation. We're all different. We all have different ways of thinking. And to, I mean, trust me, where I live, I am in the minority. Most people do not
Mm-hmm.
agree with me in the way I think. Yes, my politics run liberal. Big shocker. Like, I'm just like, I have the value that I think that we should take care of each other, we should respect each other, and by making sure all of us are taken care of does not, I think, in any way take away from anybody else. And I believe that every individual has a contribution to make to the world, and every individual is just as important as the next individual, regardless of where you were born and to who, and all that other bullshit. It's just like, I'm so sick and freaking tired of the identity politics, left and right.
Like,
But
can we all just be decent human beings to each other and help everyone
try,
out? Like,
I try,
that's that's just the world I want to live in.
I try.
Like,
And it's gotten to the point where the advice is don't talk about anything like that because it will bring out this side to hate on you and this side. And that's the problem. Nobody wants to talk about anything anymore because
mm-hmm.
they're so afraid. And I'm not going to talk politics right now. I am going to highlight a person's design just because this is a public figure. And as I was doing so, like I said, my intention started with looking at her design because I've not really, and I don't know much about her. She she was not my first pick going into this election season, whether or not you've been listening for a long time or this is new. I was heavily involved with the campaign for Marianne Williamson for president, who I thought would make an excellent president, but that's not where the cards are falling. That's not what happened. Whether, well, you get a raw deal or not, it's the machine, it's the game. It's just it doesn't matter. What matters is right now, no matter how much we want things to be a different way, or no matter if you wish you had a different candidate, I'm sure a lot of people do. There was more people in the race. It does not change the fact that voting, I think, starts tomorrow, early voting. There's only so many choices of people you can vote for. Okay. And I know there's people or supporters of third parties. you know, that's your prerogative as well. I unfortunately have seen from the inside that a third party at this point is still not going to work because there's too many things that need to change. They just don't have the numbers. They just don't have the
Mhm.
numbers. And it sucks. It really sucks. It really
I mean,
does.
the system is kind of set up to not allow the third parties to get any
Hmm.
ground.
Yeah. And so, you know, I the fact of the matter is you basically have a choice between Kamala Harris, Donald Trump. That's either where you're going to go. Okay. Um, I feel it's a better choice than we had before when it was Biden or Trump. That's great too, because that was an even worse disaster. And I don't think this is a disastrous choice. I think it's a lot better choice, and I think for me it's a clear choice. But I mean, the reason I bring all this up is because I've never voted for Donald Trump. I never will vote for Donald Trump because of what he stands for is not what I stand for, plain and simple. And I just don't even waste your time writing me, telling me, whatever. I think most people listening, I would hope, would agree, but I don't know. I don't know because nobody wants to talk about it. But when back in 2016, when he was in the election and it was Hillary Clinton, I was a Bernie supporter until they gave the nomination to Hillary Clinton. And I really struggled with that. I didn't like her either. But somebody else showed me a way to look at it, and that person was Marianne Williamson to say, well, you know what? If you support this candidate, he said he's going to do this, the Supreme Court. If you support this candidate, they've said that they will end Citizens United and will do this with the Supreme Court. That made it easier for me to decide. It was something I hadn't thought about before beyond just personality.
Hmm.
And so the reason I feel inclined to talk about Kamala Harris from a human design perspective is one, because a lot of people say they don't really know that much about her, me included, don't know much about her. And two, I find it interesting just to look at public figures and their designs. And then when I did, it made me feel better that I feel like I could believe her a little bit more about her intentions, at least on her positions, because really a lot of politicians we don't want to believe they. It's gotten so corrupted. It's hard to believe anything anybody says,
Hmm.
right? But intentions are good. And we have addressed the former president before and his design, which pretty much the shadows. So I'm
I
not
was gonna say, if
saying
I recall correctly, it was living fully in his shadows.
Yeah, so I'm not saying she's perfect and she's not I was ambivalent to her before. Didn't really care much and I would have voted against her for other candidates if they were Democratic candidates, but here we are. This is where we're at.
Hmm.
So, I was just going to talk about her design, but then when I looked it up, uh I found two other people that were pretty famous that were born today. One being Snoop Dogg,
Today being October 20th.
October 20th, which is, yes, today is October 20th. Snoop Dogg and John Krasinski, who I love both of them. Kamala, I'm ambivalent about those two. I love Snoop Dogg and I love John Krasinski. So let's look at them too. And I find it interesting to look at their designs because being born on the same day, they all have the same Incarnation Cross, but they are all three very different people.
Hmm.
And so we might do a little comparison there for sure. And so to give you something to look forward to, if you don't want to hear about her, fine, that's whatever. But, just keep an open mind and look at it from a research and a learning experience of reading charts. I mean, that's
Hmm.
really what it is you look at someone because I don't know these people personally. You have no idea what's going on
What?
in
You
their
don't?
no, their real personal lives, what they're really like. You just hear
Hmm.
stories. It's just press for all three of them. So it's just conjecture, anyhow. So we're just going to have fun. I hope. I hope. But anyway, so I'll just show you their charts, Haley. You want to see their charts?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to look at them side by side. I
Hmm.
did that. So if you're not watching this on YouTube, uh, and you're just listening, I'll try to do my best to be descriptive in my language. Excuse me. But Haley will keep me on track as she always does. She's
Right.
like,
Try to remind her.
yeah. So there's not names on here, but this one on the left is Kamala Harris. This one here in the middle is Snoop Dogg. And this one on the right is John Krasinski. Can you see those all right?
Mm, yes.
Okay. So what is interesting
Interesting.
is how different their designs are to begin with. Now, first thing, Kamala's a generator. John is a generator. Snoop is a manifesting generator. Obviously, has a lot of activations there, but
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to point out a few things about the vice president first. Is that,
Okay.
first of all, that in the context of what I was talking about, election time, if you want to make it easier for you, she was born under the sun gate of values, which all three of these were. She's a 2-4 generator, pure
Mm,
generator. So if you look at her chart, you see she has undefined sacral center, undefined spleen, undefined G center, undefined will center. She is defined in the head and ajna through that same channel as you,
shout out.
the 6447, which then also connects down to the throat through the 1156. And
Mm,
so this is one part of her design, which is connected. And then the other part of her design where she has definition is in the root and the sacral through channel 63, 60 and 3, 360 mutation, which is part of this incarnation cross of all three individuals. So they all have the same
mm.
incarnation cross and they all have that channel of 3 and 60, which is called mutation. So it's also interesting to look at because it all plays out in different ways. So I think it's always
Mm-hmm.
interesting to look at different people born on the same day
Uh-huh.
in this context because you can see how
It
different
is.
everything else.
It is also interesting that they were all born within 18, 20. Like,
They were all born in the later part of the day,
I'm
in the
trying to figure out
evening.
what the span of hours between
It's
eight-
between 6
19, 20,
p.m.
21.
and 9 p.m., 9:30.
Yeah, so a 3-hour difference
Yes,
between.
but in different years.
Right, but still, I mean,
But
it's just
Kamala,
interesting.
she was born in Oakland, California on October 20th, 1964. So today is her 60th birthday. Happy birthday.
Oh.
Um, Snoop was born in Long Beach, California, 1971. Happy birthday, Snoop. He's 53. And he's a year younger than me. I can't believe that. Every time I do that, I'm
Really?
like, God, they've done so much with their lives. Looks like, how they do so much in such a short amount of time? And even worse, John Krasinski was born in near Boston,
Mhm.
1979. So I forget, what does that make? It makes him 40. Yeah, 45. Uh-oh. Math check. Anyways, so what I was starting to say was, so she has a split. She has a large split in her definition, like you do, meaning
Mhm.
that all these centers, the throat, the ajna, and the head, are connected together. But the other part of her definition is way down here in the bottom of her chart with the root and the sacral.
Which
And
means that it would take multiple connections to get
yeah,
all of her centers connected.
yes, which could happen when she's in a room with lots of people or plus transits, all that stuff. It's possible, but on her own, it's different. And so, what stands out to me when I would look at this chart or someone with this configuration would be this is somebody who probably really lives in their head, like you. I don't,
Mhm.
that sounds wrong. I don't, you know what I mean? In the sense that they have a very active mind. The mind is always on, right? It's
Mhm.
always her information of some sort. And that being through that 6447, like you, that's that channel that is really trying to make sense of information. That this is the one that's confusion is present in here because, like you said, you don't really get words. You don't get like verbal information. You said it's like a jumble
It's
of,
literally like pictures.
yeah, like pictures, images,
Mhm.
memories, because this is the beginning of that abstract. Well, it's called the channel of abstraction. It's the beginning of that circuitry there, that abstract circuitry, and which is the understanding circuit. And no, sensing, sorry. I always get those two confused. Logic is understanding, abstraction is sensing. Um,
That makes
because
more
your
sense.
experience, yeah, because you're experiencing. And so that there is that mental pressure because there's always mental activity going on and waiting for that clarity to emerge. Now, where she obviously differs in her design from you is that she then has a connection to her throat through the
Mhm.
1156, which is the channel of curiosity. And what I love about this configuration, it's funny because she, like I said, she's kind of very polarizing figure. And people, especially before she was being now championed as saving democracy um, by the Democratic Party, is, you see these little like clips of her being saying things or not making sense or whatever. And those channels there, so there it is a continuation of that energy from the abstraction over the storyteller, and it is very much centered around the energy of trying to make sense of an experience, and the clarity is not always there, right? It like
Mhm.
has to kind of wait to drop in for it to all start to come together and make sense. And so but it's a very active mind, a very curious mind, one that's always kind of seeking stimulation. And it's also with that channel 11 or 56 and 11, like 11 is the gate of ideas, 56 is stimulation, and it is someone that really does through their stories of what they've experienced or what others experienced. I mean, the 1156, I always think about the like the bard, the
Mm.
minstrel, the guy that the go through from town to town and tell all the stories in an entertaining and
Toss a
engaging way.
coin to your witcher.
Yeah, it's like lighthearted. It's like trying to get people engaged. It's storytelling. There's a lot of
Mhm.
storytelling there. And that's a lot of what she's kind of does and is known for. And a lot of times people don't necessarily get it, especially if maybe she started telling a story and nobody asked her for it. But one thing that came up when I was looking at this, they were talking about um, a video clip of her that went viral in 2023, which was did you ever hear when she said they had a clip of her saying, "You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?"
Yes, I have seen
Okay.
that clip.
So, which she was mocked for, but then
Mhm.
once they announced she was going to be the candidate, it kind of became like a symbol for some people, coconut trees. But it's like, what? I didn't understand what it was at first either.
I
But
didn't either.
she was giving a speech, and it was about, oh, I can't remember who the organization was. I should have looked that up, or I should have noted that. But basically, the full context of the quote kind of embodies her way of communicating, for one, and also what she stands for, because the actual quote, "You think you just fell out of a coconut tree," the next line was, "You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you." It was something her mom used to say to her all the time, like,
Mm.
"What's wrong with your generation?" And um, the meaning behind it was, it refers to, they were talking about educational needs of students, but she was also saying that we need to also address the needs of parents and grandparents and the communities as part of this educational equity. It's not just the student, it's extended beyond to their whole community. And that's why she said something about, "You think you just fell out of a coconut tree," because that's what her mom would say to you. You didn't just fall out of a coconut tree and get here. You got here by all the people that came before you and all the people that are in your community. And I was just thinking, oh, that makes more sense in the context of what I know now about her design, is like she would give a speech that's more concerned about um, everybody in the community and making sure that, hello, people's tribes are included in the equity, not just the
Mhm.
individual, because that is her sun gate. So, and then the thing to really talk about these three designs is that channel, that 60 and the 3
Mhm.
mutation, because they all have it. And this is the energy for mutation. It's that pulse energy from the root center, right?
Mhm.
It's really about something new trying to come through. There's a potential for revolutionary change, brings radical change. And the people who carry this channel, their aura literally brings the physical presence of change and something new coming in.
Mhm.
Okay. Problem is, you don't know when it's going to come in, just like
Mhm.
everything with the root, right? So, gate 3 is called ordering. And it's also called in the I Ching difficulty at the beginning.
Mm.
And that is because there is a little bit of difficulty and confusion and chaos. And we've talked about this channel before about the 60 being the gate of limitation that knows that there is some limitation to your to your new creations. Like you can't just throw out all the old, right? This is that.
Right. That's the one that's saying we can't get rid of everything. We need some things, but it is
Yeah.
about like
Yeah, you
bring
operate.
new.
Right, you bring the new things in and create within a certain limitation because there is like some things that you need to like anchor into in a way.
Hmm.
Conservatism lives in 60.
We we don't want pure chaos.
No. No, and that's what the 3 has, kind of this chaotic energy of not knowing what the thing's going to be, and it's also the ability to kind of bring some clarity out of all that confusion into something new. It's the pulse of something new. And so it's meant to create something that's of lasting value, but in response, because it's also attached to the sacral center.
Hmm.
And so, what I think is interesting here in her design specifically is this large split. Is I think I think this makes a good design of a leader because being a pure sacral generator, especially in high pressure situations, she could trust her gut. Like she doesn't have an undefined root. She doesn't have an undefined head. She's
Hmm.
solid in both of those, right? So there may be pressure, but she would know how to act. She would be, how am I trying to say this? It's kind of like what I tell you in the same regard because you have this defined root and spleen, but then all this
Hmm.
head energy. And I always say that where you are going to trip yourself up is over analyzing your thoughts and taking more and more time and more input into how you should act or respond because you're
Hmm.
emotionally undefined, she's emotionally undefined. And I think that the separation between this kind of instinctual acting in her design, but then this lot of mental activity, which is what is want to get communicated, could create some kind of uh, what's the word, disconnection or confusion at times in decision making process in in an individual.
Hmm.
However, it also means that she can trust her gut instincts, and if I think I don't know her personally. I don't know her innate decision making process actually as it is. I could see how it should play out.
Hmm.
But if she knew about it, she can know she could trust those gut decisions. But um, like I said, I don't really know how she made decisions. People will say that she's gone back and forth or we don't know what she stands for, which I think a lot of that's just more talking points because it's pretty clear if you go look on her background, on her website, whatever. I think fundamentally in her career, things that she has stood for hasn't really changed, which
Hmm.
is protection of women and children, taking care of women and children, reducing crime, all these elements that everybody says they're interested in, even though they are giving her a hard time about immigration and the border. It has been something she's been a part of and at least working to try and find a solution to. When she was in the Senate, she helped and backed bills that would help that problem, which, you know, she doesn't operate in a vacuum. There's a whole US Congress that at work there. So I just wanted to point that out. Oh, and I just noticed, if you look at her chart, Haley, look, she also has 50 in her conscious Mercury as well. And so that's also a place where that's how you communicate or what you communicate to people,
Mm-hmm.
also values, responsibilities, all those things. And so I just think if I'm going to vote for a leader, I'd at least the one that like is motivated by tribal values and making sure people succeed. Um, and I also want to mention being a 2-4.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, a lot of 2-4s that I know a lot of 2-4s, and I can see they're very different people, but I do get the same sense from all of them is that they do genuinely care about people and they do love their people, but they do need their own time away as well. And I think that's probably the case here. Oh, also that gate 58, another thing to point out is in her unconscious moon. That's in the root center as well.
The moon.
Yeah. And that gate is known for joy. It's creating for joy. That's the motivation there. And for some reason that's been something that the opposing side wants to attack someone for is their expression of joy,
Well, I
which I
don't
don't
think the other
get.
side is very happy, so they want to ruin it all.
But then while I was researching some of this, I saw that she and Tim Walls call themselves joyful warriors, and I didn't even know that. And so that's interesting because that's part of her. The moon is kind of that energy that motivates you,
Mm-hmm.
and being in her unconscious uh, moon, there's that. And then also, her conscious moon is in gate 3. She's got a double placement of gate 3 as well.
Mm.
It's her conscious earth and her conscious moon.
Mm.
And that's that difficulty at the beginning. So a lot of her design is really about kind of creating some kind of order out of chaos, of finding clarity in the confusion. And that's not something that necessarily can be predicted or rushed, which I think could also cause some of the quote unquote gaffes they've seen of Kamala Harris, or her not making sense, or her being rushed to maybe make sense of answering a question on the fly. There's probably, like, can you relate, Haley, being able trying to
Yes.
answer a question? I mean, you are not the vice president of the United States. We all
No,
understand these
no,
people
do
should
not
be
have that
better
pressure.
at articulating themselves. But, for the whole, we don't want them to sound too rehearsed and they're being coached. But then when you want an off the cuff answer, sometimes as you
Like,
talk,
oh,
it
they don't
starts
make
to make,
sense.
yeah, sometimes as you talk, it might start to make sense. Like, God forbid I ever tried to run for office. That would never happen.
Oh, I know. I relate to that, and sometimes I'm like, it's like I can have the feeling or like the concept that I want to come across, but
Yeah.
then I get all tongue tied and I get all messed up, and then I'm like, does that make any sense?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm sure that happens to her, but she also has that storyteller channel, so she's probably trying to relate it to a story and then it just doesn't always land, and I get it. But really, I just think the highlights here for me is that the channels that she carries are about experience and learning from experience, gaining your wisdom there, bringing new things in, valuing what people need. Is she perfect? No. Is anyone? No. But as I started looking at the other two, like you said, it is so interesting to see the same birth date in different designs. But with Snoop, what I love about Snoop is it's totally different, even though those gates are the same in the Incarnation Cross. Completely open head and ajna. Not a
Not a
single
single
gate,
gate.
not a single gate activated anywhere in the
It's
head and
very
ajna.
stark to see.
Yeah, right. All his activities down here. And he's a single definition. So he
Mm.
has that channel of mutation 60 and 3. So
Mm-hmm.
that connects his sacral and his root. Then his root is connected over to the solar plexus because he's an emotional manifesting generator through the channel 1949 synthesis. And then if you look up through the sacral, you'll see he's got the manifestor generator channel of 3420,
Mm-hmm.
taking his sacral to the throat. And then his sacral is also connected to the G center through the 2946
A
and the
lot of G center
1333.
definition.
Yeah. Yeah. He he's defined in the G. Kamala, John Krasinski, not defined in the G. And so he has completely open head and ajna, completely open will center,
Mhm.
right? Single definition person. And it's funny because I actually looked this up because it got me very curious. I mean, what's the one thing Snoop Dogg's very well known for?
Oh god, I mean, he was a rapper. I don't know what you want from me.
What does everybody associate Snoop Dogg with?
I don't
Getting
know.
high, Haley. Come on, you know that. You don't know that?
That's not one of the first thing I would have
I think that's what everybody thinks
associate
of.
with Snoop Dogg.
Everybody thinks it's Snoop Dogg getting high all the time. He's always talking. He owns a weed company now.
I know he likes it. I just that's not where my association goes.
Yeah. What I love about him, he has a very broad appeal. People of all different walks of life, I think, like Snoop Dogg.
Mhm.
And he he's a 1-3. So he changed a little bit. That 1-3, of course, it's a different year. He's born 5 years later than her. No, 7 years later. Yeah, that's right. But what's interesting here to me is that what I know about Snoop Dogg is that he is very well liked. He is very much himself. Like he has never tried to be anybody other than Snoop Dogg, right?
Mhm.
No matter what arena he steps into, he is Snoop Dogg. I think you contribute attribute that to that defined G and also to his single definition. Like
Mhm.
people who have single definition are, I think, a lot more trying to think of the right word, self-composed in the sense that they don't necessarily need a lot of input from others, especially since he's a manifesting generator as
Mhm.
well. He's kind of self-contained in that regard. He can act on his own impulses. He doesn't need other people to help make those connections within his design to get access to different energy centers. It's all
Mhm.
connected.
Yep.
So jealous of that. And what I like is his throat definition being the 1333. This is also another one of those channels that are all about story, right? About your own experience though. What did you learn? What
Mhm.
is the story you want to tell about yourself? What's like 1156 is more like anybody's stories, ideas, general themes. And then when it comes
Mhm.
down, since it's connected to the G Center, it's more personal. And it's
Right.
about um, reflecting back, like, what did that actually mean? What do I want to take away from it? And I think it's interesting that he's a rapper. And that's very much part of that genre is telling your own story and
Mhm.
creating your own narrative about who you are, what you stand for, and all that other stuff. And he definitely exemplifies that. And then, so when I was talking about what he's well known for, of smoking weed and everything, I did see him little sound bites. Somebody asked him, like, "Why do you like to smoke so much?"
Mhm.
And he said for him it was about peace and about harmony, which harmony is another theme of Gate 50 is
Mhm.
harmony. Because I thought with that open head and ajna, I wonder if that in some way helps him deal with some of that pressure that is probably there, that mental pressure of wanting to know and to have clarity and all this other stuff. It makes him an incredibly like creative and open-minded person and being able to see things from all angles. But maybe he just likes smoking weed. I don't know. But I also thought, well, I wonder if there's also some anxiety that runs naturally because of that openness in the head and ajna could tend towards anxiety of not knowing, of not being able to focus, all
I
that
mean,
stuff.
if open centers are taking in and amplifying the energy of the defined centers,
Mm-hmm.
then I can imagine having a
Mm-hmm.
completely open head and ajna
Mm-hmm.
is really busy if I know what my defined head and ajna looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because the complete openness of not even any gates activated in the ajna, I find is really because there's 6 gates in the ajna. Um, but also he has a defined throat, so he's obviously known for his style of rapping and speaking. And he's, as a manifesting generator, that 3420 gives him that fast access to get into action. And it seems to me like he, from what I've seen of his career, he's always just kind of followed, responded things that interest him and
Mhm.
pursue where he wants to go. Like, did you see him at all at the Olympics?
I just saw like I really didn't watch any of the Olympics.
I
I
didn't
just
either.
like but I did see like clips of him during the
I loved it. It
Olympics.
was the highlight. And he said the reason he did that was because, which is interesting to me in light of his Incarnation Cross and his gate of values and everything, is he wanted to, with all the division that's in the United States and with the all the ugliness and politics that's going on, he wanted to go there and represent America and the sense of another side of America. Like, this is who we are. Like, he is a very, I don't think anybody ever I've heard talk about Snoop being a jerk or an asshole or anything like that. Everybody's like, he's a super nice guy. He's no fool. Like, he is no fool. He may smoke a lot of weed, but he's very sharp. And he brought that sense of unity and joy and harmony, things that he
Just
wanted to talk
fun.
about. Yeah, that he was so positive and brought such a positive light to, and everybody was claiming him as, hey, that's ours, is America. And that's what he wanted to do. And I thought that was great. And so he's got that mutative channel as well. He's got the 1949, which is all about, he's very sensitive. He's sensitive to his environment and who he uh, connects with, what kind of
Is
tribal
is
energy.
that the one that's like very black and white, like bonds to be
Hmm.
broken or something like that?
Yes, the black and white marriage and divorce are in that
Yeah, yeah.
channel. It's like once you're done kind of thing. And then he also has the 2946, which is about, which I also think is another indication of, or part of his design that he lives out, which is the channel of discovery, but it's succeeding where others fail and failing where others succeed. But it is entering into something in response and then just going through it for the experience to see what you've learned and what you gain, which you notice is across from that channel. Also, the 1333, which is about the experience and,
Mhm.
what you learned and the story you want to tell about it. And so he's very, and he gives me this design gives me this very much like someone who is like fully in life, living life and being that person to share their experience of life. And I think he does that pretty well.
Mhm.
And then the one I know the least about is John Krasinski, other than I just love him. If you don't know who he is, he's Jim Halpert on The Office. He is Jack Ryan. He is the dad in The Quiet Place, or some other things he's known for. I don't know. He is the husband of Emily
He's
Blunt, who
yeah, I was
is
gonna say he was married.
beautiful,
He's married to Emily Blunt.
beautiful,
Yeah.
awesome actress as well.
Mhm.
Um, and so, of course, he's an actor. Now, in his configuration, he has a completely different configuration. His
Mhm.
openness in the completely open head again,
Mhm.
but he has an undefined ajna, undefined throat, undefined G. He has a defined will center. They do
Mhm.
not. They both have open will centers. He's defined. And if you look at where his channels are, again, he's going to have that 60 and the 3 like everybody else. He has the 4426 and the 3744. 3740, sorry. Very tribal. He has a lot of tribal energy because then you see he also has gate 50, of course. That's his son. And then he has gate 59. He's missing a few gates there. If he had the 6 and the 7, he would have that whole defense or tribal defense circuit
Yep.
right there. But yeah, so when I look at him, and like I said, really what I see professionally of him as a person, he's been an actor. He's always been an actor.
Mhm.
He's done lots of different things, but he's not just an actor. He's also someone that gets involved with writing and production and things you don't even know he did behind the scenes. Like, what was the one show? It was a reality show. I saw that he was helped produce. It was like a lip sync battle. That's what it
Oh.
was. The lip sync battle show. Yeah, he helped
Huh.
bring that to the screen with Jimmy Fallon, someone else. But I think it's interesting that as open G center, I think is a plus, and an open throat center is a plus for someone who is, and an open ajna. All of these things I think are definitely a plus for
Uh-huh.
someone who is in the creative field of acting and
Yeah.
bringing that kind of visual arts through. Is that to me like that's a really good configuration because you can kind of step into any role and really
Mhm.
understand who it is that you're there to portray or speak like a person who maybe is from a certain area, or the what needs to be portrayed could come out easier maybe with an undefined throat because you don't have your
Mhm.
own defined way of speaking. So Snoop Dogg, he's got a defined throat. I have seen him act. He's still Snoop Dogg all the time. I swear. I mean, you gotta, he's Snoop Dogg no matter what. Like, you would never lose yourself in thinking, oh, who is that guy playing that role? No, it's definitely Snoop Dogg. He has definitely made his mark on who he is.
Mhm.
Um, and there was something else. And so his motivations are going to be a lot more tribal family. He's got that
Mhm.
3740 community. Like his people are very important to him. uh, Snoop has some of that with that 1949. That's a lot of looking for close family. He does have children. And I think to me, Kamala, a lot of her design is a little bit more collective. They all
Mhm.
have that individual mutative there in that 60 and the 3, but it's just interesting. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm really trying to say about these comparisons other than you could look at how one day on a calendar can produce such three different individuals.
Mhm.
But these are all very, in their own very different ways, very impactful people that are bringing new things through all the time. Kamala through possibly policies and the way the direction comes, or the direction the country goes. Snoop is always bringing in through new music products and he's written a cookbook. He's
Oh.
done, yeah,
Well,
he's
yeah, he
now a
does.
judge.
He is besties with Martha Stewart,
He
so.
is besties with Martha Stewart. Again, nobody's going to tell him what to think or do. And he also is like a voice on the judge. Like he's very multi talented, but he's always bringing in new things. And then same with John
he's a
Krasinski.
he's a judge on The Voice.
What did I say? A voice on the judge?
The voice on the judge, yeah.
Oh.
It took me a minute to register it.
And then John Krasinski is also very involved in bringing new projects through all the time. And a
Mhm.
lot of those things are kind of endeavors where you just kind of have to wait to know, when it's going to happen. And you will just kind of suddenly know when the right time is to
Mhm.
start working on some of these things or bringing some of these ideas through.
So is John Krasinski's definition also single definition?
Um, no, no, because he is split, because you could see his
The sacral's
spleen.
not connected to
Right,
the
the
sacral root
sacral.
aren't connected to the
Right. Yeah, they're all
Z.
down there. The sacral and the root are on their own.
But this would be a small split, right?
Yes, very small split because he would just need gate 6 or gate 27 really to link all those centers up.
Yeah.
And then he'd be doing good. But anyway, so I just kind of wanted everybody to see. I know we talked heavily about Kamala Harris, but it's just kind of the most
The most timely.
impactful yet timely to know about at this juncture.
Yes.
I I do want to reiterate that I 100% support you, Haley, and you listening in you having whatever opinion you have about these people, and
Mhm.
you having whatever opinion you have about candidates, and that you are blessed in this country with the
Mhm.
opportunity to vote for whoever you want to vote for. I hope to contribute to the conversation in a positive way to show you something about one of the candidates that you might not know. I think we all know whatever there is to know about Donald Trump. If that's your person, that's fine. because this is America and you still currently get to vote for whoever you want. I'm trying to say I'm being supportive of you doing whatever you want while at the same time being backhanded. I understand it. I hear myself. I understand.
That's, I mean, to be fair, that's just how you grew up with Grandma Lois.
It's true.
Love her dearly.
But I will say that I have people that are very close and very dear to me that we do not agree about this election, these candidates, and that in no way diminishes how I feel about them.
Hmm.
And I love them and I respect them and I will continue to love and respect them because any more than I don't want somebody making me feel bad for what I believe in. I don't think that's the way forward is to attack you personally for how you believe or for what you believe. I believe that we should continue to have discussions and hopefully we could have real discussions because it was, who was it? I think it was, oh, I'm going to get it wrong. Marianne was always quoting one of our former presidents. I can't remember which one it was. One of our founding fathers that said that the American at its finest, the American mind or whatever is both liberal and conservative, that there's values in both of these thought processes, constructs, whatever you want to call it, ideologies. And it's just been corrupted, not necessarily by people's beliefs, but by people's ulterior
Read.
motives and greed is what I think is the rot in this country. It's not the differing of opinions amongst people. It's beyond that. It's not what's happening here because our long history in this country of being people who don't necessarily agree, but we used to learn how to compromise. But through
I
the
mean,
influence of money,
legitimately, the country was founded on compromise.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
how we got to where we are.
Yeah, we had to learn how, you don't always get what you want. You compromise. And but compromising doesn't mean you compromise your whole belief system. It means you have, I mean, it's what relationships are built on is being able to give a little, take a little. I mean, like that's
Hmm.
how successful relationships are built and continue is through understanding and having maturity to know that you don't always get everything you want. And what has happened in this country is sad that I don't think it's a lost cause. I think that just as much as maybe the internet, social media has helped create this rot because of the ability for people to transmit ideas as fast as anything, I also think it can be used for good for people to continue to speak, to have conversations, to share, because fundamentally, I think left or right, most people in America are they just want the same things. They just they want to live a good life, make their own decisions, have enough money to take care of their families, have the next generation do better than their generation, and very much gate 50 values,
Hmm.
which I understand. And I don't know. I just I have hinted at it here and there, but I have to also draw my line in the sand and say this is what I stand on, and that's where I stand. If you don't agree, I honor
Respect
that
that.
as well. Yes. Just don't come at me and say hateful things to me and
Nobody has any time for hate. Like, come on.
mm-mm.
Let's just
Yeah.
get out of there.
Yeah. So I told Haley I was even a little worried about even talking about this. So I'm afraid these people that feel very strongly against what I think weaponizing uh, these public platforms like a podcast, which seems small, but I could go leave a bad review on my podcast and start tanking my podcast. When that happens, I'm going to ask all of you to, if you love me and you agree with this, leave me a good review. But sadly, that's just where we are right now. But that doesn't feel good to not say anything either, right? Doesn't feel
Hmm.
authentic to me to not talk about it. So thanks for listening about it. So this is a little different on the Incarnation Cross of the week. Go ahead.
You gotta team me up.
Okay, Haley, we're going to do something a little different, but it's that time for the Incarnation Cross of the week. So I'm going to cue you up, Haley, because it's your time to shine, but it's going to be a little different than the way we
Mm-hmm.
normally we do this segment. But what time is it, Haley?
The Incarnation Cross of the week.
It was very hard to navigate to figure out how I was going to say this. I normally, when we do the Incarnation Cross of the week, it's one chosen at random because we're just highlighting a
Mm-hmm.
Incarnation Cross because we all have one. There's 192 of them, and it just kind of exemplifies and shows your life path, your
Mm-hmm.
purpose, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I figured since we were talking about these three people who all had the same incarnation cross, it kind of made sense for me to do
Thank
this.
God, I would have been very upset if you hadn't have done this Incarnation Cross.
Well, it's interesting because the one person that seems to, well, okay, first of all, it's called the right angle cross of laws.
Oh, okay.
So I guess you could probably understand who probably is living this cross a little bit more. I don't want to say living it in the literal sense, like laws, because
Mm-hmm.
she's in uh the position career as a person
A
who
lawmaker.
upholds laws and then yeah, as a lawmaker in the Senate, right? But, they all three have these energies, the same energy. So what they are, if you're still looking at the chart, which I'm gonna close this out now, I think. But let me go ahead and stop sharing that. Sorry. I should have stopped that a minute. I always forget I'm sharing. So the incarnation cross, the right angle cross of laws three, actually, because we are in the third quarter today,
Yes.
right? So the gates, the sun gate is obviously in gate 50 on the conscious side, on the right hand side of the chart. Earth is in gate 3. There we go. The unconscious side of the chart, the sun is in gate 56 and the earth is in gate 60. I'm sorry, I know you want to know the names. So gate 50, I'm sorry, values. Gate
Mm-hmm.
3, what did I just say?
Limitations.
No, no, no. Ordering. Ordering.
Yes.
Gate 56 is stimulation, and gate 60 is limitation.
Oh, okay. Okay. I had it wrong.
Yeah. Hold on one second.
Values, ordering. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. What was 57?
56.
56.
You don't remember?
No.
Stimulation.
Stimulation. I was thinking instability, and I was like, that's not right.
Yeah. Did
Mhm.
you get it?
And
Okay.
and and
Limitation.
limitation.
Okay, so if you were born under this cross, along with Kamala Harris, Snoop Dogg, and John Krasinski, there's quite a
Hmm.
few others out there, I'm sure.
Which we know that they are totally listening to this, so they're gonna hear this.
Everybody is like, what else are they doing today? Okay, if you're born under this cross, you are here to guide your community toward greater order and functionality, understanding the importance of clear rules and processes to ensure everything runs smoothly. Your natural talent lies in creating structures, not for control, but for achieving shared goals. You focus on refining systems to make them more efficient and aligned with the group's evolving needs. You, excuse me, you uniquely bring innovation into these structures by building on what already works. Change for you isn't about dismantling, but enhancing through gratitude. By appreciating what's going right, you introduce new ideas in a way that feels natural and empowering. At the heart of your work is your ability to reshape perspectives through storytelling. You inspire others to see new possibilities, redefining how success, abundance, or community is perceived. Your stories open minds to innovation in unexpected areas. Your purpose is to bring fresh ideas that push boundaries while remaining practical and service oriented. You aim to enhance our collective ability to support and nurture each other. Whether it's through fostering community connections or redefining value, your leadership shapes a future where everyone's needs are met and abundance is shared. So, with that in mind, I did want to point out, I thought of that as I was talking about the incarnation cross. The individual of the three that's going to, when I said she kind of obviously, in the obvious literal sense, seems to
Mm-hmm.
be embodying this cross, because for her, um, there's a lot more what they call heavy lifting on this cross, because she has the 60 and the
She
3.
has both connections, right?
Well, so out of the 4 gates in her Incarnation Cross, only one of them, gate 50, is not connected to the other side. So gate 50 in her design is in her undefined spleen, and it's the only gate in her spleen.
Mm.
Um, and so there can be some variability there, but the 56, the 60, and the 3 are always defined, always on, connected to the center. So there's a clear flow of energy there.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be the reason why she is kind of more embodying this literal sense of this cross. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
think about laws and values, you think about a litigator, or like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I'm looking at that, I'm reading it, fresh perspectives and bringing in new ideas, well, and seeing things in a new way, opening minds to innovation in unexpected areas. Snoop Dogg has done a lot of unexpected things as well, even though he's known as a rapper and everything. But he's, as I said, he's in the cannabis industry now. And a lot of what he's doing is helping to educate people
Mm.
about the use of cannabis and how it can actually be helpful. He's not just like going back on his stoner, like, oh, like he's trying to promote it in a healthy sense and get people to see it in a new way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, John Krasinski, he's making art all over the place. So he's always showing people new ways of seeing things or just entertaining them. I love it. So that's our episode for today. I I appreciate you listening. I hope that this information was received in the way it was intended, which was just for information and educational and entertainment purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to add, Haley?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, we will be coming back at you next week with our transit update for what's coming up in
Mm.
November, which is all about me again because it's my birth month.
Okay.
But no, I'm not one of those people that you have to celebrate me all month because it'd be a long month. But today it's 1 month to my
Okay.
birthday. I was
You're
born on
just now
November.
having that thought?
I am just see, it's not always just about me. Not always
Well,
thinking about me.
sorry, me, as soon as I said earlier that today is October 20th, I was like, oh, it's 1 month of Mama's birthday.
Oh, you are the one person in the family who thinks about me. A little projector. I appreciate you. Anyways, I love you, Haley, and we really appreciate you listening. And we'll be talking to you later. Bye for now, Haley.
Bye.
You made it all the way to the end of today's episode, so you must have liked what you heard. If you did, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode, and perhaps leave us a good review. And if you know someone who wants to dig into all things human design with us, make sure you share the Human Design Hive podcast with them. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for listening.